Hey everybody, welcome to Mandolrine. I'm your host, Daniel, and today I want to take a look at the Nintendo Switch presentation and give some of my thoughts regarding the hardware and software shown at the event. So first off, when I saw the designs for the Nintendo Switch with the red and blue Joy-Cons, and I heard the reports of the screen looking great, I'm very impressed from a design perspective with the versatility with the actual hardware and the Joy-Cons. I'm not so impressed when it comes to the prices. I think $70 for a Pro controller is a lot, but from what I hear, the Pro controller is a great controller. I think the HD Rumble is a cool feature they added, and I've heard the screen looks about as good or even better than a PS Vita screen. So overall, I can't complain too much in that department. I mean, $300 for a brand new console at launch is cheap. It's not as cheap as a lot of people, including myself, are hoping, of course, but $300 is a reasonable asking price. One thing I think Nintendo did a good job of demonstrating is the different modes of the Switch, including portable mode when you have the Joy-Cons attached to the side and you carry it around like a portable. There's also tabletop mode where you can play two players with just having the screen set on the table and each person holding a Joy-Con. And of course the other mode where the Switch is docked on the TV and you play with a separate Pro controller. And speaking of that tabletop mode, there was a game called Snipperclips that they showed off. I believe it's called Snipperclips. And it's a very bizarre game. It's two players, each person's holding their Joy-Con remote and the tablet or the screen is sitting on a table with the kickstand up. And your objective is to kind of work together to cut these different shapes out of paper-looking characters and complete objectives this way. And it's a very kind of creative thing. And at first when I saw it, I kind of wrote it off because it looks like just very basic. But then I thought, you're actually playing this two-player game on this little screen. And it seems like a cool concept to actually be able to do a little mini game like that. I can imagine it being fun at a party or just when you want to play something casual and quick with a friend. Now, next up, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. I wasn't too impressed by this. It's cool that they added a few characters, but as far as tracks, it doesn't look like there's too much new in terms of that. I'm very happy that they're adding the battle mode, but personally, I kind of got my fill with Mario Kart 8 Deluxe on the Wii U. I played a ton of it online and single player. As great as Mario Kart 8 is, after spending so much money at launch on, buying a Pro controller and any other games like Breath of the Wild, Mario Kart 8 is definitely not on my list, and I know it's not coming out right at launch, but in terms of the games I see myself buying in 2017, Mario Kart 8 is kind of an afterthought. For people who never owned a Wii U or never owned Mario Kart 8, it looks like a great version to get into, especially with the improved battle mode. Speaking of improved games from the Wii U era, Splatoon 2 was a pleasing surprise. When I first saw the footage and the initial first look at the Switch, I figured maybe it's just a port of the Wii U Splatoon with a few new maps and a few new characters, but it turns out it's an entirely new Splatoon game. Granted, it looks very similar. From what I saw of the videos, from the on-screen footage or off-screen footage, it looks terrific. It looks like it's running faster, the graphics look cleaner and crisper. Not all that different, but it's so cool that you're going to be able to play this portable game, Splatoon, anywhere you go. I watched a few gameplay videos and the music sounds great. It's actually new music, and the music from the original Splatoon really got me hyped. It gave me a summer vibe because that's when the game came out, and it was something I really enjoyed playing online. I think the Splatfests they did with the original Splatoon were a lot of fun and kind of got the community engaged, though after a while the appeal of choosing a side did wear kind of thin. One thing I'd like to see is being able to actually keep the special clothing and special shirts that you get in those Splatfests and carry them over into single player or other multiplayer events. The campaign for the original Splatoon was fantastic, but it was a little short, so maybe they actually split the development cycle and carried some of these things over to the Switch. Either way, it doesn't really matter to me. I'm just happy to see it's actually a new game instead of just retreading the old same grounds, and hopefully they're going to do some exciting new things that they haven't showed us yet with that. I didn't see anybody covering Skyrim at the event, but I just wanted to touch on this briefly. Now, Skyrim is an amazing game. I loved it so much, but that was when it first came out years ago. I played it on the Xbox, and it's a great game, and there's been a lot of iterations of it. There's been a lot of mods for it. There's been the remastered HD edition, and now that it's coming to Switch, it's kind of good to see Nintendo's getting that third-party support, but I just wish they could have done something a little bit newer, you know. It's like a day late and a dollar short for Skyrim, just for me personally, but if you haven't played Skyrim, definitely recommend picking it up, especially if you want a meaty game that's got hundreds and hundreds of hours of gameplay to it. It's just such a rich, vibrant world, and hopefully the Switch will be able to perform well with that kind of intensive processing. Another game showed off at the presentation was Bomberman R, and this looks like a kind of a fun eShop kind of download, but I think it's actually going to be a full retail game. And I heard anecdotal reports of people playing this game and saying, you know, it's very basic, the graphics are very basic, this is something that could have been done generations ago, and that there was actually lag and frame rate issues. I don't know if that's from wireless play or if that's just from playing single player, but people are saying this thing's having lag and frame rate issues, and it's a very basic game. So that could just be that it's in a development stage right now, or it just could be that it was poorly developed, but there's also a chance that, you know, that's kind of a red flag for the Wii U. If it can't handle a little Bomberman, how are we going to get third parties on board and develop AAA titles? And that's a whole nother conversation. And speaking of third parties, it's cool that Nintendo has FIFA coming, though I personally don't care for those games. It is a huge franchise. I just don't know how many people are going to be converted to Nintendo fans over FIFA, and if that kind of third-party support from, you know, these big developers is actually going to last or build momentum after launch. The Wii U did have third-party support at launch, and we can tell looking back that didn't really carry through. I mean, we got a lot of indie games, but the AAA titles, even trying to get something like Watch Dogs brought over to the Wii U, was a hassle. They had to pull an arm and a leg. But I'm optimistic for the Switch because I think it's a powerful system. It's shown to run things like Unreal Engine 4 and other popular engines that a lot of modern games are running on. And for me personally, I know graphics aren't the most important thing, but definitely processing power and what your system's capable of doing is going to affect if developers actually want to bring their game to your system. And I would like more third-party support. Now, I love Nintendo games, but it would be great to see other games from other platforms come, because it's good for the whole infrastructure. It brings more gamers. The larger the install base, the more likely you are to have third-party developers and indie developers convert their games or develop specifically for your platform. Moving back into the games here, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild is something I've been personally excited for. I've been playing Zelda games since the early 90s as soon as I could pick up a controller with the Nintendo Entertainment System and the original Game Boy with Zelda Link's Awakening and Link's Awakening DX, Oracle of Ages, Oracle of Seasons. I've been playing this franchise like so many others for a very long time, and this looks like the best Zelda game of them all. Especially as a fan of kind of open world-ish games, this looks great. It's like Skyrim meets Zelda with kind of this Miyazaki Studio Ghibli appeal to it almost. It's an expansive world and everything looks clean and colorful, but also very stylized and simplistic. It doesn't have a lot of clutter, and it looks like a great world to just get lost and spend some time in. All that being said, I'm just kind of getting tired of them showing off this game. I feel like I've seen so much of it already, even though we've only seen a small fraction. I just want the game to come out. And so there's also this game called 1-2 Switch that was just kind of demonstrating the new Joy-Cons, the features, and how you can do face-to-face gaming, which is a cool concept on paper. But when it comes down to it, you're milking udders, pretending to do like a quick draw Western style shootout. It's just kind of like a glorified PowerPoint game. It's like a glorified PowerPoint presentation. That it's a cool concept, but I think it should have been a pack-in game. This is not a full retail game. If this game's going to be $60, I'm going to pass. But I am interested to see what Nintendo does to implement the new features of the Joy-Cons, and I'm really excited to try the HD Rumble because I've heard it's actually, it's sort of a gimmick, but it actually feels different than a regular Rumble. So I'm just curious to see how that actually feels. I do have to say, watching people play 1-2 Switch, the milking game, is very awkward. Milking digital udders is probably the last thing I want to pretend to do while I'm looking into my friend's face. But who knows, maybe you're into that kind of thing. And the last game I want to talk about is ARMS, and that's the punching, shooting kind of hybrid game where you're a boxer with these really long, stretchy arms made of different material that stretches out like springs and cloth. I thought from a design perspective the characters look really cool, and from a mechanics perspective, this game did a great job of showing off the differences between something you can do with these Joy-Cons versus the Wii. Because the Wii boxing, you were just kind of swinging your arms all over the place madly, just shaking the controller pretty much. But in ARMS, you can actually kind of curve your punch to the left or the right, and there's a little more nuance to it. So that might be a sign that these Joy-Cons are a little bit better in terms of motion control. They might be borrowing a lot of ideas from the past, but improving upon them, and hopefully that's the case. But once again, this is not a game that I'd be paying full retail price for, honestly. It looks like it's a fun game for maybe a party or something like that, but unless there's a bunch that we're not seeing, it's not my cup of tea, really. I mean, it looks great, the characters are all designed well, but outside of Super Smash Bros. And Street Fighter, there's not too many other fighting games I really dip my feet into. So basically, in summary, I was happy with the presentation. I thought it was a good job. I was so hyped, and I was live tweeting and blogging about it over at mandorine.tumblr.com and Twitter at mandorine. And I was so hyped through the entire thing. I watched it twice that same night, and I felt like I needed therapy afterwards because I was just overloaded. But when we actually got into the nitty-gritty details and saw the launch lineup for 2017, I was a little disappointed. I mean, I hope there's a lot of cards Nintendo still has tucked up their sleeves, because if this is all they have to offer, of course I want Breath of the Wild, of course there's probably a couple other games, but there's no reason for me to rush out and face the crowds and try to hunt one of these things down, considering the prices that everything's at with the Pro Controller and the fact that I might not get to choose the color I want to get. I'm just going to wait a little bit and see what's going on with the games and with the prices and availability, but I'd like to know what you guys thought about this whole presentation. Anything at all that I said, feel free to respond below. If you agree with me or disagree with me, that's fine. Love to hear it too. Once again, this is Dan with Mandorine. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.